Historically speaking, colonization used to be so much worse. Alright, class, settle down and let me tell you a story. As a person that lives in a flashpoint area, meaning that where war can break out at any time due to geopolitical tensions, I believe it's important to actually keep up with the news. And number two, I think this is quite interesting because we're seeing a retaliatory act by another group of citizens from another country against the current state of the United States right now with regards to their stance on immigration and deportation. So we usually don't do this, but I think I definitely find it interesting because usually when the people protest against the US, it's usually directed against the government, but this time it's being directed against its actual citizens living within the country. What they'd usually do is they'd mobilize in front of an embassy, do their program there, and then burn the flag. That's it. But this time, they're actually targeting citizens. So why don't we check it out?
Are kicking Americans out of their country. Look at this. This is crazy. This is happening in Mexico City. They are destroying businesses.
Hold on. Fuera de Mexico.
Look at this. Oh, there goes the glass. And they're going in.
So are these American-owned businesses? Because it wouldn't be much of a protest, or it wouldn't be... Well, they're just hurting themselves if they're hurting Mexican-owned businesses.
Oh, man, look at all the people filming.
Looks like it.
This is crazy. They're telling them to leave the country.
Okay, they're targeting Americans, or at least white-looking people, I guess.
This guy's writing to blank a gringo. That's not good.
Kill a gringo, gringos, AIV. They're definitely targeting tourists. And, well, Americans in general. White people in general. They're not targeting the US government. They're not providing a program. They're not being led by political figures. But no, it seems that, well, Mexican nationals are targeting American citizens currently within Mexico City right now.
Here they are trying to break into a restaurant that's already got spray paint on it. Look at this. This guy's got a knife. That's terrifying, man.
But I wonder who owns these businesses. Are foreign nationals allowed to own businesses within Mexico or Mexico City? Can someone please put it down in the comments?
Ripping down the...
Can foreigners provide or buy or run their own businesses within Mexico? Again, please, comments.
Outdoor dining?
They're clearly targeting tourist spots.
There's so many people filming it and there's zero police anywhere. What do you do? No.
Yeah, no cops.
No police. What do you do? Now they're attacking some apartments, it looks like. Throwing rocks at them. It's just total.
This could get dangerous in a sense that it only takes one to trigger a lynching. And if I'm not mistaken, guns aren't exactly accessible to civilians in Mexico. Am I? Am I mistaken? Or can someone please put it down in the comments?
Anarchy.
I mean, if you guys remember, the Black Lives Matter protest, there were these two couples in the gated community that literally went out with guns to protect their house.
Ooh, look at that, they're breaking windows. This happened on Independence
Alright. La Independencia.
Day too, so it was, I guess, pre-planned that they were going to do this to protest America.
Usually how protest goes is that they would be led by political figures who would basically do a program, and then in the end they'd burn the American flag or something. That's how it usually goes with these type of protests. But this is something different. This is something actually is quite violent.
Americans who are in Mexico City. Look.
Because they're targeting foreign nationals. They're not targeting the US government. Usually these things would usually happen in front of the embassy. They'd be hosed down by now.
Look at this, man. Oof. No way, man. Yeah. Again, no sirens. Look, these people are hiding on the floor.
This needs to be stopped. This needs to be stopped immediately. Because fear fuels rage. The moment these windows break, the moment they get in, they're gonna start swinging. They're gonna start dragging people out.
Attack! Never mind that any of these restaurants are employing people that live in Mexico.
Yeah. I mean, looking at all the property damage, who owns these restaurants? Who owns these properties? Are foreigners allowed to own properties like this in Mexico? Are they allowed to run businesses like this in Mexico? Comments, please.
Here's more footage of them ripping apart that clothing store. Look, they just totally loot the place in seconds.
Alright.
Absolutely unreal.
Hey, I mean, you've already done property damage. What's theft compared to that?
There's massive crowds. Oh, look, the protest is peaceful now. Oh, thank God, a peaceful protest. I was worried for a second there. I thought this was one of those American protests that turns out not to be peaceful.
Gringo, go back.
Gringo, go back. They do not want American migrants in their country for some reason.
These protesters in Mexico City say cross-border migration is changing their country's capital for the worse.
Well, that's what they're doing.
An influx of mostly American, so-called digital nomads, have moved here to work remotely and also enjoy a cheaper cost of living.
Oh.
Protesters say the newcomers have driven up rents beyond the reach of locals.
If they're going to live in a country, they have to contribute to that country. The first and simplest issue is legal migration. They come here with visas or no visas, and still the change in purchasing power generates these problems of gentrification and displacement.
So
gentrification and displacement, how it usually happens is that people are usually taxed two ways, through direct or indirect taxes. Digital nomads or tourists are usually welcome for the simple reason that that not only do they boost the economy, but they're also a source of indirect taxes. I mean, they quote-unquote pay the taxes on everything they buy, they pay the taxes on the hotels. But again, this is from a different jurisdiction, so I'm not really sure how it works in Mexico.
Apparently, if you're an American, you could stay in Mexico for up to 180 days with no visa, which is like Mexico having a wide open border.
Yeah.
I'm here because gentrification is just one more step towards colonization, dispossession, and the exploitation of our resources.
I don't agree with that gentrification is the next step to colonization. Historically speaking, colonization used to be so much worse. By the sword.
Sources. Right now it's
Their
about the
country's
people,
being
but it won't be
exploited.
long before they run out of oil, water, or lithium in other countries and come and take them from us.
I don't know about that.
Many
I don't
Americans
agree
in
with that.
Mexico are able
That was a little bit of a reach. That gentrification equals colonization. A little bit too of a reach. I mean, it's comparing it to colonization. No, calling it a step to colonization. No, I don't agree with it.
to still receive high salaries in dollars from U.S. companies by working on laptops from their apartments.
Wow.
To be honest, if they're contributing, because we have that here too in Southeast Asia. But it seems that what triggered this whole thing is the current migrant crisis in the US, or the political migrant crisis in the US happening right now. This feels retaliatory. Tourists and the digital nomads, whatever you may call them, are almost always usually welcome because of what they contribute to the local economy.
The government is directing its public policies towards people with higher purchasing power, often illegally displacing local populations who have lived in these neighborhoods for 40, 50, and we have even documented.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that usually happens by that they would illegally displace a local population. That happens. But again, this feels retaliatory.
You know, I would tell these people to go and protest the Mexican government, but then they'd be protesting a cartel-aligned governance body, and that's not going to work out. So who do they go after?
Cases of up to 60.
I'm not sure about that. To me, this whole thing feels retaliatory. Like they're simply retaliating what Trump is doing to the local population in the US.
Years. In 5 years, rents have increased by 47%. This is violent for the local population. We are debating whether to pay for electricity, water, or food. Of course.
Well, if you don't pay for food, that's not going to work out.
Some activists blame Mexico's government for encouraging them. However, there's no simple fix.
The border
Imposing
wall.
tougher visa restrictions on Americans could worsen relations with the U.S. Mexican citizens in the U.S. also send billions of dollars in remittances back to their families in Mexico.
That they do.
Oh, so the government is afraid to crack down on how Americans might benefit from Mexico, since so many people in Mexico are benefiting from America. Uh-oh, what's going on here?
Now this is
Oh,
bad.
they're going after this guy. Look at this.
Like, yeah, this whole thing feels retaliatory that they're simply targeting random people in the street. Who's in no way responsible for the current stance or the current political stance of the US with regards to illegal migrants right now. They're just targeting random white people. Which is bad.
It's a riot. Ooh.
Yeah, it's now a riot. It's no longer a protest.
This is not your home, they're saying.
The moment the first rock is thrown, it's no longer a protest, it's a riot.
Wow.
Get out.
This is not very tolerant. That's not tolerance. This isn't a peaceful protest. How come we're not hearing about anything like this happening?
Get out.
How come the American news isn't telling us about this? Look at this guy with a mask and his shirt off. Oh, his shirt is the mask. Okay. This is wild. Mind you, these businesses employ people who live in these neighborhoods. I've actually got a friend who lives in Mexico City, and he said that these folks that you see protesting are actually a minority. That's what he tells me. Now, it must be the case or you wouldn't have these businesses.
That's what's sad about this, is that they're targeting
Look, everyone's smiling.
Mexican-owned businesses, Mexican-owned properties.
Get out.
Hopefully they
they're
have
throwing
insurance.
firecrackers
Yeah, this is what makes me think that this whole thing is retaliatory.
or something in there?
They're just
Whoa.
targeting tourists, American citizens, or anyone who looks white.
No thanks, man. Look at this.
These hardworking idiots don't jump.
Look at this guy. He's like, what do I do? My restaurant is being destroyed.
Get out, whoever doesn't.
Again, first rock is thrown, it's no longer a protest,
You know,
it's
the
a riot.
ironic thing about this is it's almost like having an open border has consequences that people don't find out about until after it changes things in a way that may be irreversible. But this guy's got the wrestling mask. Oh my goodness. What's crazy
Yeah,
about this
buddy,
is
no.
that there's just
Cientos de manifestantes
no
se reunieron el
police.
viernes,
Trump.
4 de julio,
Okay.
en la ciudad.
Look who somehow is the
Cállate.
reason they're out there rioting. And who
Cállate.
they don't like. Boy, if they're
I can't
rioting
read.
because
Blanco?
of
Cállate,
Trump,
Blanco?
you know
Can't read
who's
it.
really behind this.
Para protestar contra la gentrificación. Los manifestantes destacaron las
Okay,
dificultades
so they're
que
talking
enfrentan
about
los
the
locales debido al
gentrification.
aumento de las rentas y la transformación de los vecindarios.
There's that clothing store again. This place, I don't know if it'll ever open again. Look, after they raided it and looted it, then they threw objects in there. Oh, look at this dining shed. That is insane. What? That looks like a flamethrower.
La llegada de...
Yeah, what's
No
absolutely
more.
fascinating to me
I didn't see
is
that
that this doesn't look like a story that major American news networks want to cover for some reason. I wonder why that is. Probably because these very same people are already in America.
That's right. They've been given the third warning to disperse.
There we go. Shops are here.
Right here. Look at this.
Following this rally, this march that has been peaceful all day long. There have been two instances where CBP vans have exited this detention facility, and that's when some protesters approached one of those vans and started hitting it.
That sounds peaceful.
Before that, water bottles were being thrown, and this is why, you know, the law enforcement presence, Marines, and the National Guard has increased over time. At this time, tensions are heightened here in downtown Los Angeles.
Look at this. It's called the Free America March. This is in Los Angeles at the Federal Building.
Trying to make their voices heard in a very peaceful
All right, so things are still...
At this point, it seems like...
All right, so things are still going down in LA.
Right, so in America, when anarchy takes place, people are just trying to make their voices heard. It's not a big deal. And when even crazier stuff happens in Mexico, let's not cover that. Let's not draw attention to the fact that other countries might be intolerable of immigration policies that may not benefit everybody who lives there. But you want to know the real reason why the Mexican government won't close the border? Here it is.
Teresa Mendoza cleans houses in Oceanside.
Remittances. They depend way too much on remittances. Basically, a person would work abroad, send money back home, they tax that cash. That's how it usually works. And I'm pretty sure they have laws or they have remittance requirements that a specific percentage of that person's salary must be sent back home. And it could range from like 50 to 80%, depending on the country and depending on the type of work.
Once she's paid, she wires money to two family members in Puebla, Mexico.
I know
the need in Mexico, and God has blessed me with my job, so I am able to contribute to my family when I can. Money transfer houses like this one in Oceanside are a common stop for workers like Mendoza after paydays.
Did he splice this? Can someone please put it down in the comments? Because these look like pandemic protocols where people are still maintaining like 6 feet away from each other.
People are wiring money.
Remittances. And $41 billion worth of them were wired in 2020.
Okay, so this report claims $41 billion of remittances in 2020. That was 5 years ago. But today, that number is a lot higher. Look at this. $65 billion last year. And it says right here, the Mexican...
So yeah, the Mexican economy is definitely dependent on their, cross-border workers.
Economy enjoys a yearly boost just by encouraging people to come into America illegally. And it also says that their entire social welfare budget, this is what...
Whether or not they go to the US, they get to the US legally or illegally, they get to send money back home.
What they might use to take care of people who are needy is $30 billion, which it says right here is offset by whatever they generate from tourism. And this article also discusses the inconvenient truth that the number of impoverished people living in Mexico who the Mexican government may have to take care of is drastically lower, since that country is able to convince these people to cross into America, where they can get things like free healthcare and work illegally in sanctuary cities. Essentially, illegal immigration has been a lifeline for the country of Mexico and acts as part of its social welfare program. Which means that everybody in Mexico right now is rioting over something that they don't fully understand. They want a one-way border that allows people to enter America, get jobs, and send money back here, but they're very upset when Americans might go to Mexico.
To be honest, the whole thing feels retaliatory to me, since it feels like a reaction to the present migrant policies made by the Trump administration. Because Cállate Blanco literally means shut up white. And kill gringos. It feels retaliatory. That they're not protesting against the policies of the American government, but they're literally protesting against white people. Anyways,
Mexico for some opportunity in a legal capacity. Again, you can stay in Mexico in some instances for up to 180 days with no visa from the Mexican government if you're American.
Of course, some of them are angry because of the current gentrification that the locals are getting pushed out, but I wouldn't say like that girl earlier that like it's a step to colonization. Nope, I wouldn't call it a colonization because by definition and by historical settings, colonization is usually done by the Zord, and these are digital nomads who help bolster the economy or who contribute greatly to the economy. Can't do much about it, but yeah, people will get pushed out, and well, we can't deny their anger for the simple reason that they're getting pushed out. They lived there their entire lives, and now they can't afford the rent. They can't afford to live in the present economy because the prices were driven up by digital nomads.
And this is not an illegal form of migration. No, it's totally legal, but they want a one-way border, I guess. I guess that's what they want over here. Look at this.
No, they don't. All right, I guess he's getting a little bit passionate too.
You can get a 3-bedroom home in Mexico for all.
One of the weirdest or strangest things about government is that, well, what people want and what the government wants may not be the same thing. Winston Churchill, in his immortal words, said, the greatest argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with a local voter. I mean, that's the thing about democratic governments. The population usually voted them in. So the voting pattern literally decides if the local populace deserves nice things from their government. And the thing is, governments would always choose money. There have been exceptions, but of course they'd almost always choose money, especially one that has been known for its corruption.
$100,000. And you want to know why some people are willing to go there and buy these homes. You just can't do that in America. And if somebody can work a remote job with a computer and send money back here or use that money to exist in Mexico and it's legal, some folks are going to do that. What do you think about all of this? Should the Mexico border be a one-way border or a zero-way border? Should it be closed from both ends? What do you think about this idea that people should be able to come into America and benefit from America without reciprocating that to American citizens? Let me know. I'll see you.
Again, comments. That's all the time we have for tonight. Bye! Thank you for watching, guys. So if you want me to check out other stories here on YouTube, please let me know in the comments. We upload on the weekends, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Also, check out our Twitch channel where you can watch me do this live. And please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do the whole notification button thing to help me out with the algo, and class dismissed.